Hey guys, hey, come on. Fatal Dead starts.
Yay! Awesome.
Quickly establishing himself as a peak competitor, arrested 2 years ago for failing to pay down a now fatal debt on the education of his 3 daughters, contestant 43 survived the lightning round by evading... Oh my god! Contestant 43 blindsided by contestant 8 with a well-hurled cement block. Contestant 8 moving in for the kill. This doesn't look good for contestant 43.
If I can interrupt for a moment, Rex, contestant 17 is still trapped in the obstacle course. She's hidden inside a spare tire, apparently unaware that Warhammer's infrared can see her a mile away. That's what I call a flat tire.
Right you are! Looks like contestant 17 just ruined several otherwise pristine tires, provided to the show by Goodyear. The best tires have Goodyear written all over them.
Looks like some development in Sector 2. We're going live to Wally Wild in the chopper copter.
Folks, things are not looking good for contestants 12 and 13. In their efforts to cooperate, they've attracted the attention of the whole mass of robot assassins.
Wally, I tell you, I don't think I've ever seen that much blood.
It looks like Buzzsaw has honed in on the screams of contestant 13 and contestant 12 trying to defend contestant 13, his biological sister, with a spar of driftwood.
I can't see this turning out well for contestant 12.
Well, Rex, it looks like you may be right. Buzz's diamond-studded chainsaw is going through both the makeshift club and contestant 8 like all through butter.
That's gotta hurt.
The diamonds for Buzzsaw's blades, provided, of course, by K Jewelers. Every kiss begins with K.
Yeah, it looks like contestant 13 is trying to hide under the mutated corpse of her brother, and boom! Surprise airstrike!
Talk about feeling the heat.
The napalm used on the show, provided by Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin, the weapons pizza.
Down the final leg of the gauntlet. Having removed the power orb from the lifeless hands of contestant 40, it looks like...
Oh God, where are my legs? Where are my legs?
Oh my lord, contestant 19 is down. What a performance. But it's all over now. Contestant 27, missing both the limbs on the right side of his body, managed to find the chain gun. Unbelievable.
Really beating all the odds here, Rex. An amazing play by an amazing player.
And now, Rex, comes the real challenge, which will be crawling over the barbed wire to the finish line without losing consciousness due to the loss of blood.
We'll be back in a moment after a word from our sponsors. And don't forget to tune in next week. We'll be coming to you live from Camp David for Fatal Death's 10th season finale. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. Boom! So that's the teaser. Thank you guys. Thank you. Fatal Death takes place in the real world. It takes place in our world in the year 2064. So for those of you who can't read about the math, that is math 54 years in the future. Now, basically, I'm going to go over just some real quick world background of what's happened between then and now. The world is a little bit of a darker place in the future than it is today.
Yay!
So basically, I'm going to go through a real quick little bit of world history. The year is 2023. This is many years before most of you were born. And basically what ended up happening was the American government declared bankruptcy.
Never saw that one coming.
Never saw that one coming, right? The U.S. government just said, we don't have any more money, out of money. Can't borrow anymore, just can't, we're just deep in a hole. It's done. When that happened, the Chinese government collapsed because we owed them however many trillions of dollars. And both of those governments collapsed, and all the world's governments collapsed. Because those two went down, and then it was everybody. It was a mess, there was chaos, it was like global depression, global economic failure. And what ended up happening is that basically corporations stepped in to save the day. Within about a year, the Fortune 500 had become the Fortune 100, as all these different huge multi-conglomerates merged together. And then about 5 years after that, there were about 7 companies that ran the world. And now, I don't know if you guys consider this, but there were no more governments, which means there was no more money, there were no more armies, there were no more police, there were no more any of that stuff. There was no more public institutions. What that ended up happening was it was liable to be anarchy, except that the corporations stepped in and basically created this system of credit, where because all these corporations bonded together, they couldn't pay you in money anymore, but they could extend you lines of credit. So you could basically get everything from the company store. It would sort of be like if everything in the world collapsed and Wayfinder issued all you guys credit cards and said, there's no more money, but you can just get everything through us, and we'll just extend you this line of credit. However, things being what they were, very quickly most people went into a tremendous state of debt. 2030 rolls around, massive rioting in Europe, there's rioting all over, and this strange mix of martial law takes over, where these corporations have these giant private armies. They have basically hundreds of millions of employees and millions of well-trained, well-armed security guards. And you may be asking, how did these corporations take over? Didn't anyone stop them? Well, who would stop them? For years, the governments hadn't been able to afford to keep a standing army. Even the most loyal soldiers need to feed their families, and all of the money and resources came from these, 7 companies. So basically the entire first world enters into this corporate system. You guys, any of you who are that were born after 2030, so really any of you younger than 34, and then even those of you who were kids during that time, don't remember a time before any of this. Your whole lives you have entered a state of debt, and basically none of you have what you call a nationality anymore. I mean, you might know that you're American, but it would be the same thing as your star sign. It would be like something you say at a party, yeah, I'm a Capricorn and I'm also British. It's like a trivial thing that doesn't really matter. What matters is the corporation that you work for. The corporations as they exist right now are WallCorp, which is Walmart mixed with a bunch of other things. Exxon Incom, City World. And by the way, there's sort of their specialties. Walmart sort of has a lockdown on agricultural technology. Exxon Incom takes care of petroleum. City World has a lock on the world's fresh water supply, which you guys are in you don't have that much fresh water left in the world. GE has a lock on medicine. China National Petroleum controls sort of energy of all types, solar, wind, nuclear, a lot of other sort of energy types. Then there's ING Group, which has rare earth elements, gold, platinum, other things that are necessary for making computers and advanced robotics. And then there's TXA that has steel. The world you've grown up in is a very stark one. Corporations at this point in time really only sign people on to these things called indefinite employment contracts, which means basically you sign a contract for indefinite employment. There's no end to it, there's no allotted time, no one freelances anymore really. You sign on and basically your wage goes directly into paying off your debt. What debt, you ask? The cost of being born, the cost of mandatory vaccinations that you need to have, the cost of your compulsory education. Keep in mind, there's no government, so there's no more public education. So these corporations force you to go to school, but you're not getting it for free, you're paying for it. So by the time you're even old enough to realize what money is, you're already deeply, deeply, deeply in debt to the corporations. Luckily, they're kind enough to provide you with free housing, free clothes, and free food in return for signing these indefinite employment contracts. So basically, you guys work for one of these 7. Jack is rocking back.
Because Jack's a socialist. Socialist.
The corporation you grew up in gives you your identity. The corporation you grew up in is literally your home. You grew up in gated communities of all the same employees of corporations. Your life growing up, let's see, you had compulsory education. And again, bear in mind that the corporation stepped in and saved the day. They saved the world from chaos. Like, nothing was working. And the way they look at it, they're not a government. They don't owe you anything. They're a company, they're a business, and they get to decide the terms. There's no, in other words, there's no, like, poetic justification. It's not like, we the people there's none of that anymore. It's just, this is Waldorf, we're here to make money. Now, the trick is this.
There was no money.
Yeah, there isn't money anymore, but there are these strains of credit. So within, the corporations are all large enough to sort of be self-sustaining. So think about it as each of these corporations basically being a country, except that all of the money is digital and it's all valued by the corporation. So you can't buy anything from anything other than your corporation. If you got fired, that's the same from being banished from society, because there's not another way to get food. There's not another way to have a house. There's not another way to have any of this stuff. Yeah, Al?
Are there any people in the society who aren't in debt?
Yeah. There are two kinds of people that aren't in debt. There are ghosts, which is a term you guys use for people that live off the grid, like people that are in third world nations that never were advanced enough to be a part of this sort of like move into the corporate world, and what you guys call the immortals, which are the 0.001% of the population that has money.
That has 100% of the wealth.
Yeah, that has 100% of the wealth. Exactly. So if you think about it, the way it works is this. Every one of you guys lives in a crippling amount. I'll actually give you the breakdown. You all live in debt. Thankfully, the corporations that you work for forever are nice enough to give you bonuses. Your bonuses are rarely paying off your debt. Your bonuses are only like cars, televisions, additions to your home where you live, upgrades to another kind of living condition. So all of you live in a certain amount of like material luxury. Like, you're not going hungry, you're not cold, you have all the things you need, you're taken care of by the corporation that you work for. You never see a paycheck because all of the money that you're making is going to pay off the interest on your debt. For those of you that might not know a lot about personal finance and what that's like, basically, your bank accounts are all many hundreds of thousands of credits in the negative. You owe your corporation more money than you probably can ever make. But they're going to keep you alive out of just the goodness of their heart as long as you continue to work for them. That may sound a lot like slavery. Moving on. So the way it works down like this, life on Earth as it is right now. There are places called ghost lands, which are like third world countries. There's even like if you live in New York City, there's like neighborhoods like out in the Bronx or Brooklyn that never really got on the grid. And a ghost is a person that doesn't have a credit strain. They're a person that doesn't operate under that system. There's no really telling how many ghosts there are. Ghosts are not real people. They don't work for a corporation. They're ghosts. Non-ghosts break down like this. 0.001% of the population are called the immortals, or the exalted. These people have their bank accounts in the black. They don't owe anything. And usually it's not like, oh, I have $100. Normally it's like, I owe my soul to the company. Or it's like, I have a bacillion dollars. They're called immortals because there's all these thoughts about, like, because they can afford anything, like gene therapy, they have clones in vats that they're waiting to transplant their brain to. They're going to stay alive forever. Basically, all these things that they can afford because they're not in debt. 5 to 10% of the population, you're told, are people you call like the golden children or silver spoons, people in what's called retrievable debt.